Welcome to Jack Slayter Notes. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel for any sort of educational or any educational purposes related to any sort of competitive exam. Okay, so MCQ discussion on pedagogy and CDP, the series that is ongoing, and we already did set 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these 4 sets that we already did has many elaborate, theories and MCQs important and notes related to that. And so yes, so this is set 5, but I would recommend watch set 1, 2, 3, 4 first, because those would very much help in clearing a lot of confusion regarding many theories and sets and everything. So yes, question number 1, teacher notices that students understand concept better when they discuss among themselves before answering. This support the idea that learning is what individual and isolated, meaning you are doing it with alone and isolated from others, so that is not passive in nature. No, and learning is active in nature, socially conscious. So that's your answer, because the teacher noticed that for student understand concept better when they discuss among themselves, meaning uh, students are discussing among themselves and figuring out which is what group discussion, right, with other peers or other students. So that literally does showcase what socially constructed a student is learning, that is socially constructed, all sorts of learning in this case. So let's move on to question number 2. Which of the following is the most suitable example of positive punishment? Now we talk about positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and we learned that in set 1, 2, or 3, that we learned that positive and negative are both what actually positive, but negative is removing unpleasant task after desired result was found. So but what this one is, we talk about positive punishment and negative punishment. So the question asks for which of the following is the most suitable example of positive punishment: giving candy for good behavior, removing homework for punctuality, or assigning extra work for misbehavior, or ignoring disruptive behavior. Now ignoring disruptive behavior cannot be true, because this is totally wrong. Doesn't fall under any of this. You should not ignore, you acknowledge, and then you find a proper way to fix that. Assigning extra work for misbehavior, that has to be negative. Removing homework for punctuality, that is actually negative reinforcement, right? Giving candy for good behavior, that is, wait a second, no, giving candy for good behavior, that is not punishment, that is positive reinforcement. Removing homework for punctuality, or assigning extra work for misbehavior, your answer is assigning extra work for misbehavior is what positive punishment, because you are not beating or punching or anything, you are assigning extra homework for misbehavior. So that is okay. Let's elaborate, discuss this. What is, yeah, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner is about what positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, right? Because it talk about behaviorist, and with reward tend behavior increase, and with punishment behavior tend to decrease. So that's what he's talking about here. Operant condition by B.F. Skinner. Operant condition theory is a theory of in behaviorism which explains that behavior is shaped by its consequences, right? If consequences are pleasant, behavior tends to increase. If consequences are unpleasant, behavior tends to decrease. Likewise, a positive reinforcement that we talked about earlier in one of those videos from set 1 to 3, 4, that definition, adding something pleasant after behavior to increase that behavior in the future. For example, a child completes a homework or a good task, so good grade in unit test or something, you give him chocolate or award or something, prize related. Then what does the student do? He shows good behavior to, or he does good grades in other unit test to get that reward. So this is positive reinforcement, because he is getting something, you know something desire, you are adding something desirable to his accomplishment, and that's how he would do good in future. So then come negative reinforcement. That is also a positive reinforcement in a way, because removing something unpleasant after a behavior to increase that behavior in the future. Example, what a student finishing classwork, extra assignment removed. For example, for a for punishment he will give them extra, that is we have to talk about, like assigning extra work for misbehavior, right? So that is what positive punishment. But then you show that he done all the good work, unrelated, then what you do is you remove, or extra assignment that you give is removed. You show that he finished a classwork, he is doing good in the class, you just said that you remove that extra assignment that you give. So here are some other example. Child cleans room, that means parents stop nagging. Effect is behavior increase because discomfort disappears. So that's the key idea. Something unpleasant is removed is negative reinforcement, and something desirable added is positive reinforcement. Both are positive in a sense, but here we are talking about punishment. Like, what is positive punishment? Like, this is one is positive punishment because what is the most suitable example of positive punishment? Answer is assigning extra work for misbehavior. So we are going to talk about positive punishment. Definition is adding something unpleasant after a behavior to decrease that behavior in the future. Like for misbehavior, what did you add? Unpleasant, that is extra homework. Formula is behavior, unpleasant stimulus, behavior decrease. So the next time what he would do, he does not do any sorts of misbehavior, so that he won't get what? Lots and lots of homework in the future. So that's the thing, he would do better in a way. Student talks in class, teacher scolds him. Child lies, parent give extra chores. So effect is behavior decreases, that is positive punishment. Key idea is something unpleasant is added. You are added something what? Unpleasant. So negative reinforcement is something unpleasant is removed. Positive reinforcement is something desirable is added. Positive punishment is something unpleasant is added. And negative punishment is what? Removing something pleasant after a behavior to decrease that behavior in the future. Removing something pleasant is removed. Like for if you don't do your homework, we take away your video game time, that sort of thing. Definition is removing something pleasant after a behavior to decrease that behavior in the future. Formula: behavior, pleasant stimulus removed, behavior decreases. Example: teen break rules, phone take away, right? Child misbehaves, no TV time. Effect: behavior decreases because a reward is removed. A continuous reward that is happening, but then he does something bad, you remove that. So key idea is something pleasant is removed. So let's do a quick. What is positive reinforcement? Positive reinforcement is something desirable is added, right? Then negative reinforcement is something unpleasant is removed. Then positive punishment is something unpleasant is added, and negative punishment is something pleasant is removed. So whatever you do, here is the complete comparison table. So positive reinforcement is adds something pleasant that would increase behavior in behavior result. An example: giving chocolate. Negative reinforcement is something unpleasant removed, increase behavior, removing extra homework. Then come positive punishment is adds unpleasant something, add unpleasant thing, decrease behavior, that is scolding. And negative punishment is remove pleasant something, decrease behavior, taking away the fun. So the concept is positive reinforcement add reward to increase behavior. Negative reinforcement remove discomfort to increase behavior. Positive reinforcement add discomfort to reduce behavior. Negative punishment remove reward to reduce behavior. So overall, all these are for your betterment, for child's betterment. So that's the thing. Question number 3, assertion: children should be encouraged to ask questions in the classroom. That is correct. Children should be asked to encouraged to ask questions in the class. That's how they learn. Reason is questioning promotes curiosity, reasoning, and deeper understanding. So children should be encouraged to ask questions in the classroom because questioning promotes curiosity, reasoning, and deeper understanding. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. That is your answer. Question number 4. Which of the following is not associated with progressive education? So what is progressive education? Progressive education is something that is being progressed through what? Betterment of children, diverse, inclusive education. Those all things are progressive education. Activity-based learning, yes, that is progressive education. Child-centered learning, teaching is the most important progressive education. Memorization, focused instruction, that is not progressive, that is standardized, and that is wrong. Learning through experience, that is progressive education. So the question asked, what of the following is not associated with progressive education? So we will go with memorization focused instruction. That is your answer. Question okay, let's talk a bit more about progressive education. So progressive education is a method of teaching that gives importance to students' interest, experience, activity, and participation in learning. Progressive education is an educational philosophy that emphasizes learning by doing, child-centered teaching, practical experiences, critical thinking, problem solving. It focuses on the overall development of the child rather than rote memorization. The philosophy is strongly associated with John Dewey. John Dewey says education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. So, yes, John Dewey talked about he talked about what? Learning by doing, right? That is experiential learning, or whatever you say it. Learning by doing. John Dewey talk about learning by doing, and that is the most important of progressive education, progressive learning, or whatever you call that. Question number 5. According to Piaget, the ability to conserve quantity develops during the conservation developed at what time? Sensory motor is all about what? Senses, object permanence. Then pre-operation is about what? Centration, right? Transductive reduction. Concrete is the ability. So we concrete ability is about what? We talk about that whole formula in set 1, 2 or 3. Formation is abstract thinking, concrete is about concrete development. So the answer here is conservation that happens is in concrete. Yeah, here are the thing, concrete operations. So here's the whole thing we talked about that. So set 1, 2 or 3, anywhere you get there. So sensory is about some object, problem, deferred imitation, reflexation, all the pre-operation, reversal, transductive reasoning, egocentric animism, all that. Concrete is logic, becomes transitivity, conservation, classification, seriation, reversal, all that. Formation, abstract, deductive reasoning. Yeah, we already talked about that in another video. Here is it's just there, you can just see and look at it. We already discussed that. Yes, formal operation theory, hypothetical reductions, and all that. All right. Question number 6. A student studies regularly because she enjoys understanding new concept. This is an example of intrinsic motivation, because she enjoys understanding new concept and everything. So yes, here we already talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in other videos. So most important is set 1, 2, 3, 4. Here are the list of scientists and their work. Maslow talked about what? Abraham Maslow talked about hierarchy of needs, that is AS2. Colbert talked about what? Sociocultural theory, or Skinner talked about, wait a second, Vygotsky talked about behavioral, sociocultural, yes. Psychosocial development Colbert talked about psychosocial development, but here it says what? Moral development, right? Yes, moral development. Psychosocial is morality. Oh, wait a second. No. He talked about what? Moral development, morality, pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional morality. Yes, moral development. So, yeah. Then come Vygotsky, he talked about sociocultural, yes, and Skinner talked about, as usual, operant, classical conditioning by Pavlov, and Maslow about hierarchy of needs. So yes, one is the answer. Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. We talk about that in video number 4. We talk about that in video number 4 very elaborately. We talk about it. Check them out, and we also talk about Kohlberg idea. We explain everything here, and then comes lab by Vygotsky. Yes, this is also in video 1, 2 or 3. Yes, Vygotsky, we did all those. Yeah, and we also did all sort of this. So most important is to check out set 1, 2 and 3. We explain everything. Question number 8. Which of the following best reflects a learner-centered classroom? So learner-centered is you are doing what is best for the children, the pupil, or peers. Yes, is yours personal, children's peers, and children's and everything. One children to the pair. Yeah, whatever. Just kidding. Anyway, Uh, which of the following best reflects a learner-centered classroom? Teacher domination throughout the classroom. That is not. That is teacher-centered classroom. Emphasis on rote memorization. I don't know what kind of classroom is that. That is just wrong. Still, student actively participate and construct, meaning that is a learner-centered classroom. So your answer is student actively participate and construct, meaning. Alright, question number 9. Read the following statement carefully. Learning disabilities are related to low intelligence. No, that is not really entirely correct. Learning disabilities, disabled child also can have a very high IQ and they can be genius. So that is totally wrong. Learner with disability can succeed with proper support. That is correct. Yes. So the A is false, but B is true. So only B is true here. It says. But A is false. Yes. Only B is true. Question number 10. Which of the following is an example of formative assessment? Like we talk about formative assessment is something that we do throughout final examination. Here is summative. Weekly classroom feedback and quizzes, that is formative. Yes, so the answer entrance exam is summative, board exam is also summative. So the answer is here 3. Formative assessment is done during the learning process, used to monitor progress and improve teaching learning. Example: classroom discussion, quizzes, assignment and feedback activities, that sort of thing. Functional fixedness is a barrier because it limits problem solving ability. Your answer is true, because functional fixedness is you stuck in one thing, you are not seeing other points of view. We discussed that in class number 4 elaborately. Check that out. Question number, yes, that is what we talked about. Question number 12. According to Eric Erikson, the major psychosocial conflict during adolescence is trust versus mistrust, that is infancy, that is 0 to 2 years. Initially and later. Identity and role conversion is your answer, because that is the major psychosocial conflict during the adolescence. Yes. Here's the thing. Infancy is trust mistrust. Early childhood is autonomy and shame. Initiative and guilt is preschool. School age is industry and inferiority. Identity role conversion is adolescence. Young adulthood, that is intelligence, isolation. Generative and stagnation is middle adulthood, and old age is integrity and despair. Question number 13. Which of the following best support inclusive education? Segregating children with disabilities, that is not the part of inclusion, that is you are segregating student. Uniform teaching of all students, that is also wrong, because if you do uniform teaching for all students, then a child with low IQ would left behind a child with smart, so that not gonna happen. Flexible teaching strategy is the only way, because you are teaching according to students' needs and what they can learn at the exact stage and with abilities and disabilities. So their answer is flexible teaching strategies according to learner needs. That is your answer. Yes, here's the definition. We already talked about that in the earlier videos. Question number 14. Assertion. Children learn language more effectively in interactive environments. And reason is social interaction contributes significantly to language development. So children learn language more efficiently in an interactive environment because social interaction contributes significantly to the language development. That is, both of them are correct, and the reason explains assertion. Yes. Question number 15. Which of the following is not a characteristics of effective teaching? Not says encouraging critical thinking is a characteristics of effective thinking. Uh, Respecting learner diversity is also a characteristics. Promoting fear to maintain discipline, that is totally wrong. That is not a characteristics of effective teaching. So your answer is 3. Promoting fear to discipline. Uh, Maintain. Yes, maintain. Question number 16. A teacher who encourages students to reflect on their own learning is promoting what? It is metacognitional technique, because he is thinking about thinking and thinking about his own you know teaching process and everything. So that is metacognition. Question number 17. Which of the following best explain accommodation in Piaget theory? So accommodation, fitting new information into existing schema is what? That is accommodation. In ignoring unfamiliar experience, no. Changing schema to adjust new experience, that is accommodation, because you are fitting new information into existing schema is assimilation, and changing schema to adjust new experience, that is accommodation, because you are accommodating. So the answer is changing schema to adjust to new experience. So here are the whole thing. Assimilation is fitting new information to an existing schema, and accommodation is changing or creating a schema when new information does not fit the old one. And here are the whole formula. Fast new experience, that is assimilation, then disequilibrium. You break it down. to do what? Accommodate, change it or add or something like that. So here is the example we already elaborately talked about in class number 4, so check that out. Question number 18. Which of the following is most important for maintaining students' motivation? Public comparison among learners that would demotivate students rather motivate. Fear of punishment that is also demotivate students in a long way. Meaningful and engaging learning experience, that is the only way to maintain, meaningful learning is the most important for maintaining student motivation. Strict memorization pattern, that is also totally wrong. So the answer is 3, maintaining and meaningful and engaging learning experience. Question number 19. A teacher asks student to work together in a mixed ability group. This primarily promotes competition only, no cooperative learning and parenting. That is the one, because when you mixed ability group, what you do is you learn cooperative learning and peer interaction. You talk to other people and you understand their background socially or any sort of that is diverse, that you understand new thing, you have empathy for their society, civilization and all sorts of things. Isolation is wrong, mechanical learning is also wrong, so the answer is cooperative learning and peer interaction. Question number 20. Read the following statement. Intelligence can develop through effort and learning, that is also correct. Emotional well-being affects academic performance, that is true. Learning occurs only through memory, that is totally false. So answer A and B is correct, yes. Question number 21. Which of the following learner is most likely to benefit from scaffolding? A learner who has already mastered the task. Who has already mastered the task does not need scaffolding because he already is more knowledgeable. Other he knows all stuff. A learner worked beyond their current ability with guidance. Yes, that is the answer, because a learner working beyond their current ability because he has certain ability and he is doing that. But if he get more knowledgeable, other a little bit of scaffolding because he is working on an idea that is currently beyond his current ability, because this time he doesn't really know the next part. So that's why scaffolding would work. A learner refusing, if he's refusing support, then how does scaffolding work? That is wrong. For a learner memorizing without understanding, that is the circuit or silent survival from theory. So the answer is to a learner working beyond their current ability with guidance. That is the answer. Yes, scaffolding means temporary support given by teacher or adults to help learner complete task. As the learner becomes capable, the support is gradually removed. So, question number 22. Which of the following is a key feature of constructivist classroom? Passive reception of information. That is not that is just that is more of a teaching teacher centered classroom. Just teacher is passing away information and you are receiving it. So one way communication, also teacher centered. Active engagement and exploration is your answer, because that is the key feature of constructivist classroom. So all depend, that is totally wrong. So active engagement and exploration. Question number 23. Which of the following is not a symptom commonly associated with ADHD? Not a symptom. So ADHD's main thing is impulsivity, hyperactivity and difficulty sustaining attention. So a permanent hair loss is a hearing disability. So that is the answer, not as the question asked for, which is not a. According to Kohlberg, moral reasoning based on avoiding punishment belongs to what? So we talked about that in. You should check out class number 4. We elaborately talk about what pre-conventional, talk about and conventional and post-conventional, talked about in universal or universal ethics. So universal ethic level is a stage in post-conventional, like post-conventional stage, that is 5 and 6. So universal is the 6th one. Moral reasoning based on avoiding punishment belongs to what? Moral reasoning based on conventional or pre-conventional. Why is that? Because pre-conventional talk about tit for tat and obedience and punishment, personality word and mutual action, and conventional is good boy nice girl, legal orientation. So here it is, we describe elaborately discussed that in set 4. So pre-conventional morality has 2 stages, that is obedience and punishment and your question arrived is where? Based on avoidance of punishment, that is obedience and punishment is avoiding punishment fall under obedience and punishment. So your answer is pre-conventional level. A child obey rules to avoid punishment, that is pre-conventional stage 1, and stage 2 personal reward orientation. Behavior is guided by personal benefit or reward. I will help you, will help me. People help others only if they get something in return. Then conventional good boy nice girl, law and order orientation, post conventional social contract and universal ethical principle. We elaborately talk about that in class number 4. Check that out. Question number 25. Assessment should be integrated with teaching learning process. Okay, and continuous assessment helps improve learning and instruction. Yes, that is correct. So both A and R are correctly explained. Say question number 26. Which of the following best reflects democratic discipline? For example, student obeys rules out of fear. That is not democratic teaching. That is out of fear. So that is more of a dictatorship. Teaching teacher imposes decision without decision. That discussion, that is also not democratic. Student participate in forming classroom rules. So that is the democratic discipline. Best reflection strict punishment, that is also wrong. So the answer is students participate in forming classroom rules. Question number 27. The concept of zone of proximal development was proposed by, so zone of proximal development was by Lev Vygotsky. You know that. So the answer is Lev Vygotsky. In zone of what does happen in zone of proximal development? The zone of proximal development, that is ZPD, is a concept developed by Lev Vygotsky. It refers to the gap between what a learner can do independently and what they can do with the help of a teacher, parent, or more knowledgeable person. ZPD is the stage where learning becomes more efficient because the child can perform a task with guidance but not alone. So we already talked about ZPD in earlier videos. So the most important ones of these videos were started from the first, like set 1, set 2, set 3 are most important. Set 4 is also most important because set 5 we did not do any new theories and anything. So till 4 they are very important. Also 5 is also important. Question number 28. Which of the following best promotes creativity in learner? Sorry, asking only factual question, that is not creativity. Encouraging multiple possible answers, that is creativity. Obviously discouraging explanation, that is wrong. Memorization without application, that is also wrong. So the answer should be encouraging multiple possible answers. Fill in the blanks. The inability to understand another person's perspective in early childhood is called what? So early childhood, inability that happens in what? Pre-operational sensory motor, and after pre-operational people child get a bit egocentric. So the answer should be egocentrism. Question number 30, and this is the last one. Which of the following best reflect the goals of modern education? Developing holistic personality and critical thinking, producing learner skill, no. Encouraging competition, no. Thematic education, also not wrong. So the answer should be also wrong actually. Answer should be developing holistic personality and critical thinking. That is your answer. Likewise, yes, that is your answer. So before we go, we would say that so far set 1, 2, 3, 4 has elaborate definition of all these that are written despite being set 5 as most pages here, but we already elaborate that in set 4, 3, 2 and 1 because they are basic, but right here we just added this explanation for question 6. So if you just want it, the PDF you get it, so you will understand. You don't have to get all those PDFs, so that's why we just add them. We don't really need them because set 1, 2 and 3 and 4, if you go through thoroughly, then 5 is a piece of cake because 5 is nothing compared to 1, 2, 3 and 4. Hopefully 6 would be a 6 set would be a big one, but till then set 5 is, well, here check them out, some good questions too. So we will get back with set 6 and also social studies. And yeah, thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe to the channel. Just learn, study hard, work smart, and goodbye and have a nice day. Take care.